Hey, what's going on YouTube? Nick and Shane here to talk about the Book of Boba Fett episode 6. There will be spoilers, so you are forewarned. All right, how we're going to do this? Let's just dive right in.
Yes, let's do it.
You know, we knew from the previous episode that Mando said he has to pay a visit to a friend. We all know who it was. We know it was going to be Grogu. There was little Easter eggs. And of course, as he's flying into this planet, I'm like, oh, this looks exactly like there would be. And of course, we see the little antenna coming up, and I knew it was R2, and I'm like, well, of course, we know who we're going to see next. And part of me smiled, like it's like, we're diehard Star Wars fans at heart. First and foremost, I love Star Wars to death. However, I want the story to be cohesive. I want it to be about Boba Fett and focus on Boba Fett. Like this isn't like in a movie where you could include all these characters in the sake of it being just Star Wars. If this season is supposed to be the focal point on Boba, we didn't get that last episode. We got it for a scene at the end of there's Boba, and that's it. That's
was
the
like
only time he's in this episode.
We should just have a list of Easter eggs and be like, hey, at 40 minutes, Boba Fett appears. It's a little blink and you miss it moment.
Yeah. Like you see Chrysanthemum, you see Mando, you see the Power Ranger mod squad, and then there's Boba and his Gamorrean.
There's like one shot of him and that's it.
Yeah. Like, so through 6 episodes out of 7, we've really only seen Boba in 4 of them. That's not a show about him. It's like saying it's like a novella, if that. It's a short fiction story, is what it is. It's something like I'm going to write not 20 pages, but 2.5 pages of a character. But the other 17.5 pages are actually going to be about other characters,
right?
Like that's not what the story's about.
Dog's bark.
No, see, even the dog agrees. Like, he's like, preach. So let's sort of dissect this into 2 parts. Let's talk about this as a Star Wars episode, kind of like we did last episode.
Okay. Yeah,
and then we'll talk about this as a Boba Fett episode. Sure. I want you to go first on what your thoughts were about this.
About the whole thing, I feel insulted. That would probably be the words that I would use, because at this point, Star Wars to me, like I love Star Wars. Let me preface this by saying I absolutely love Star Wars. I've watched the prequels and the sequels probably about 100 times each. Mm-hmm. And I mean, the prequels obviously have faults and stuff like that. But at this point, Star Wars to me is becoming so creatively bankrupt. Like they don't know what they're doing with it. I mean, it feels like everything they do now is like, we have to bring in as many of these old characters that we know that you guys love, and all the fanboys go like, oh, I know this character. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. It's Luke again. Like, yes, I'm going to cry. But it's not storytelling. It's like, this was supposed to be some like little crime drama, like crime lords thing with Boba Fett. And that's what it was hyped up to be. And I know some people have said like, well, it doesn't matter what the name of the show is, but it's like the genesis of the show is to be a character study on Boba Fett. What is it trying to say about Boba Fett? What is it trying to say about his place in the franchise moving forward? And halfway through the season, they just said, fuck it. We're just going to throw everything that you already like into this show and hijack the entire thing.
Yeah, I would have rather this been
upset.
season 3 of Mando and then have this little small detail of, oh, look, Boba Fett's got a cameo again. Cool. I think we'd all be fine with that. I saw a meme today that literally says, great episode about Star Wars, but I thought this show was about Boba Fett.
Yeah.
And it's like, he's out of line, but he's right. Like, that's the consensus.
Yeah.
And I know people felt that way again about the last week's episode too.
And I felt that way about Mandalorian season 2 as well. Really, to me, the most creative thing that Disney has done since acquiring the franchise was Mandalorian season 1, because you took this like little offshoot story and you tried to tell your own thing. Like,
Yeah.
sure, there's some little, nods and characters, like there is a baby Yoda instead of actual Yoda, stuff like that.
Right.
But it's trying to tell its own thing. It's trying to make its own way, right?
Yep.
And then Mando season 2 and all the movies and this are just like, we're going to insert as much fan service in as humanly possible, because we know that that's the only thing that fans will get excited about. And it feels insulting to the audience, because it's like, we're not telling new stories, we're just giving you Star Wars porn.
Essentially, yeah.
Yeah, it is so surface level. And like, yes, I won't say that I don't get excited seeing Luke Skywalker on screen. The CGI actually looked incredible this time.
Man.
Like, that was
Yeah.
scary good.
Flawlessly done.
Yes. I mean, even the difference between him and Mando season 2 and this, it's night and day. Like, not only lighting wise, but like, he looks significantly better. That's probably the best CGI human character I've ever seen. However,
yeah. Go on.
It's what is this story supposed to be about? Like, what is the, like we said a couple weeks ago, that this show would have to prove a reason for its existence, right?
Yes.
And I was kind of like optimistic about the show, because it's like, we just got Boba Fett in The Mandalorian. So surely if they're making this spin-off show about Boba Fett, there has to be some sort of interesting idea or genesis behind the project that led it to being greenlit. And that was what I was kind of interested to see.
Right.
And then when we talked about like, oh, Filoni's doing episode 6, who are they going to bring in? And we're like, well, maybe it's, other bounty hunters, which we did get one. We got Cad Bane.
We sure did.
Whatever. That actually was one where I was okay with. Like, that makes sense. Like, it's a crime lord show with bounty hunters, and he's a bounty hunter. Cool with that. That's fine. But we got 4 episodes with like no plot and a little bit of a lot of flashbacks, but no present day plot, setting up a conflict at the end that is like totally inconsequential, that we don't care about. And then we just went full on into like Grogu, Luke Skywalker, Mandalorian. Yeah. So what's the fucking point?
Obviously, as soon as we saw R2 and we see all these androids, I'm like, oh, they're definitely building a temple. They're definitely building a Jedi Academy. Yeah. This seems like the perfect planet to do it, that, makes sense even lore wise, and of course, then it cuts to Grogu and Luke. And again, I think the star of the show was the effects, the way they portrayed Luke Skywalker. Like, he not only did he look like even a better younger version of Mark Hamill, but he sounded just like him.
Yeah. And I think they do some sort of, I think it's actually Mark Hamill doing the voiceover.
It is Mark, but they're doing something to his voice,
and again, him sound younger. Right.
Yeah. The audio engineering in this episode again was great, super well done. And then all of a sudden, here comes Ahsoka Tano, and I'm like, I wasn't expecting to see her. I really wasn't.
Yeah.
And I think for the sake of any sort of characterization, because of that conversation she has with Mando, that is like a good, I guess, like setup to more setup for season 3, or other shows. And we can talk more about that soon, but again, it's kind of goes back to season 1 of Mandalorian. If Grogu was never a part of that show, how much would people have cared about it? Like,
it's an interesting question.
Because this little green guy here, which we saw, a bunch of frogs about, and then Luke's just like, watch this, and just brings up like all of them, like with ease, and and Grogu's little eyes like, and look, stuff like that. I eat that shit up, for breakfast, because it's like the fun-ish type of Star Wars stuff that like we like. However, like even the Grogu and Luke stuff, it should not have been in the show. As much as I loved it, it should not be in the show.
Should not be in the show.
Ahsoka shouldn't have been in this episode as well. R2 should not have been in this episode. This planet should not have been in this episode.
Yeah.
Like no.
I mean, you can tell those stories, and I liked those little moments. Like I liked the moment where,
Oh yeah,
I mean, if you think about it, like Ahsoka is basically talking to like her brother, kind of
almost.
like
Yeah.
like half brother, to like not unrelated brother kind of thing. Because of course the Anakin connection, and then she says like just like your father and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
So like those are cute little moments,
Yeah.
and like those are powerful, but they like it's a different show. And like even if you made this sort of this like catch-all Star Wars, you know, story of the week type of show, like it doesn't really seem like it's about anybody.
No.
Like what it was supposed to be about Boba Fett, and now it's about the Mandalorian and like that story. And like, I mean, we've gone like 2 hours of screen time without any Boba Fett at all, which
Yeah.
again, like some people are like, if it wasn't called Book of Boba Fett, no one would care. It's like, no, it's because you started telling a story about Boba Fett for 4
Right.
episodes, and then you completely abandoned it to tell a completely different story halfway through. It's the craziest fucking thing I've ever seen.
Yeah. We were, it's like we felt a hook, line, and sinker of thinking we were going to get a show about a beloved Star Wars character that is we've been watching for decades, and we get 4-ish episodes of him. And you know, again, I don't know if he's going to die in the next episode or they're going to make a second season. And again, even what the hell is the point of that?
Nah.
You know, I don't know. I think people will, for the most part, watch a Star Wars show, and then depending on what happens within that show, you know, people. It's like if this wasn't about anyone, same thing. People didn't know who the Mandalorian was until
Yeah.
they watched that first episode, and they'll go, "Holy shit, that's Baby Yoda!" Because
Yep.
there's the connection, there's the mystery, and it wasn't so much of like a J.J. Abrams mystery box thing, but I think again in this episode we got the Mandalorian connection because Luke's like, "Hold on, let me make you remember," and then boom, Revenge of the Sith, episode 6, episode 3, Order 66 flashback. Did we see the clones? We see the other Jedis. We see it from his eyes, you know. And I kind of wanted a little bit more of that too because we still don't know who it was that took him off Coruscant. And maybe that doesn't really matter so much. Because I know a lot of people were speculating like, oh, it was Yoda or it was Ahsoka, you know, or something like that, or you know, before even I can't think of the name of the librarian
I know you're
Jedi, but people probably know who she is. But people thought it might have been her as well. And I think, look, the training, the scenes, because we got like a montage, right? Like we literally got the lines and the scenes from Return of the Jedi that Yoda told Luke, and it was now flipped over from Luke to Grogu. Like,
remember this, everybody?
Yeah, like he's spoken riddles.
You like these
Are
movies.
you going to speak like that? He's still not speaking. He's still just cooing around. But he even says, Luke to Grogu says, you know, Jaren is going to die before you really even start to age.
Yeah.
Like, you know, by the time he's in his 70s, if he gets that far, you know,
it's like
you'll still
Lord
look young.
Elrond talking to Arwen.
Yeah, exactly. You know, he's been living for thousands of years, and she's like, you know, in her hundreds. So I mean, I think for the sake of, you know, establishing more of what we already know, it's great. The callbacks, the Easter eggs, the lines, like the jumping, and of course, you know, Grogu starts to hop around like Yoda did. You know, I think we even mentioned that it might have been off screen or something like that too, but you know,
you'd see him hopping around like Yoda.
Yeah, you know, and however, I thought it was hilarious before they got to that part when they're walking.
He was force pushing him.
He's force like walking him. And I'm like, I thought
that was very cute. That was a
Yoda?
very cute moment.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, did Grogu? Is he jumping now? And I'm like, no, Luke's just like moving his hand. I'm like, no, Luke's walking him legitly. Oh man, that was a pretty cute moment. And I think again, there's that moment where he says to Ahsoka, like you mentioned, I don't know if his heart is truly in this training droid, right? Like he just breaks the toy and he's like, "Will I ever see you again?" She's like, "Maybe," and which was interesting because I think even at that point, people were speculating
Luke is
if
going to
they
be
had,
in the Ahsoka show.
well, if they had known each other prior to this
Luke has to be in
point.
every show. That's the rule now. It's the Dave Filoni rule.
Well, not only that, but like, how come? And again, we haven't gotten the Ahsoka show, but the Ahsoka show might take place after this moment in time
Yeah,
from
I
this
think it will.
episode, and Luke doesn't know about Thrawn or Ezra in this quest that she's about to embark on.
Yeah.
So she's not really going to ask for his help. And even then, the real big question here is, will we get a Jedi Academy
Spin-off with
show or
CGI Mark Hamill?
some sort of Luke show? Because the other big question is, will he become the first student? Will he decide
No.
to go with Yoda's saber or go back to Mando?
He's going to choose to go back to Mando because they have to sell toys.
God. And that's the thing, like you can still sell toys in this next and like the spin-off show. I mean, again, like I don't. Here's the question: even if he left, and even like Luke brings him back to Din Djarin, what is like? He's not going to really. It's almost like, what's the point? There's just sort of like a father-son moment going forward. Like, I mean,
I'm kind of okay with that. Like to me, the best part of the Mandalorian season 1 and 2 was the connection between Grogu and Din Djarin.
Sure.
And if they can kind of foster that more, and maybe they, as he gets older and starts talking, stuff like that, they can play off like the father-son dynamic a little bit. Because right now it's like baby and father dynamic.
Yeah.
Like he's just this cute little kid, but maybe he gets teenage angst or something like that. I don't know. They could go a lot of different ways with it. And maybe he gets trained to be a Mandalorian, blah, blah, blah. I'm okay with that. But like, I think it would be less interesting if they tried to like maneuver it around the Kylo destroying all of the Jedi Academy thing. Because it's kind of like how they maneuvered Ahsoka, right? It's like she's this Jedi. Oh, by the way, she survived Order 66, conveniently disappeared for the entire original trilogy. And oh yeah, she's back now.
Yeah.
I think that'd probably be an easier path forward, is just to have him go with Mando and sort of forsake that Jedi Academy.
Yeah. As much as I personally would rather him stay, like it's quite interesting to see even Luke offer that option. Because look, I obviously I don't think they'll retcon the sequels at all. I'd be curious to see if they decide to, again, like sort of maneuver certain things around it, because it's like, oh well, we know Grogu can live for hundreds and hundreds of years. Where was he during the sequels?
Right.
Is Din Djarin alive?
Right.
Did he die before that point? After has Grogu decided to continue on with the Force? Even after leaving Luke off that planet, and did he sort of feel through the Force, maybe potentially when that Jedi Academy fell? And then Luke went into hiding, sort of, and it's kind of the same thing. Like, where was Ahsoka?
Right.
Did Ezra come back? Is he alive? Like, there's so many unanswered questions, and I mean, it's going to be really interesting to see how it all gets sort of intertwined together, or if it really comes down to some sort of I don't say like a pinch point, but a point in time
like
where
Avengers.
Yeah, exactly.
It's where they're going with it. 100%.
It definitely seems. I said it in their chat. This is turning into like the Star Wars cinematic universe.
It's exactly what they're doing. They saw it worked with Marvel. They brought Jon Favreau, who started the MCU, to do the exact same thing with Star Wars. And instead of telling their own story, they're trying to tell this like overarching shared narrative type of story. And in doing so, they're detracting from the stories that they're actually telling.
Yeah.
And it's worse than Marvel. Marvel, at least in each individual movie, even though they are kind of contributing to a bigger plot, they at least have character development and plots within them. Like in like the Spider-Man movies, even though he's interacting with, Nick Fury and whoever, it's still a Spider-Man movie, right?
Right. Right.
And like the most recent one was like very anti-Avengers, I guess. Right. But like even the Captain America ones, where like those are they almost feel like mini Avengers movies
Yeah. A little bit.
because there's so many of the others. They're still telling a Captain America story. And this, it felt like it wanted to tell a Boba Fett story and then like got overshadowed by, oh, but we have this whole, universe with Ahsoka and Luke and all these people that we have to throw in here. And we're just going to drop that story and pivot to this one. It doesn't feel organic.
It doesn't. And again, I was a Boba Fett fan for quite some time. Not he wasn't my favorite character by any means, but I liked the mysterious figure he was. He didn't talk much, and that was lost in the 4 episodes that we saw. Maybe not so much when he was with the Tusken Raiders, but ever since then he's been chatting up a storm. And I think for the sake of what's taken place in these 6 episodes, I'm much more fascinated by anything other than Boba Fett.
Yep.
And
100%.
that's a problem.
Boba Fett is the worst part of his own show. And that is a very big problem.
Yeah.
And that's where I kind of like, as I was saying, it feels creatively bankrupt because it feels like all they kind of care about, or all Filoni cares about, is the characters we already know about. And that's what he's going to focus all of his efforts on. And instead, what's kind of falling by the wayside is like any other sort of original story. Like I know Boba Fett is this character that we've all known, but like you can still tell a very compelling story. Like some of us thought this was going to be like Godfather, Game of Thrones type stuff, and like all this maneuvering and political stuff, and like that could be a really interesting dynamic in Star Wars. We haven't really seen that before, right?
Right.
And then we didn't get any of that. We got like flashback scenes about the stuff that we already knew happened, like escaping the Sarlacc pit and getting the ship and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then the present day plot was like, oh yeah, here's some huts, and then they leave, and then oh yeah, the Pikes are like taking over, and that's it. That's the plot we got.
Yeah.
There's none. There is no plot.
Yeah, and all we saw from the present day plot was the little meeting at Boba's palace.
Yeah.
Then Mando going, I might be able to find more help. He goes to Freetown, which seems something out of like, a fantasy world like Lord of the Rings or, Game of Thrones, right?
Feels very Firefly, if you've ever seen that show.
Oh, yeah. It's a good point. And we see Cobb Vanth, from season 2, and who has a huge Western stare down with Cad Bane.
Yeah.
Right. And of course that was cool. I'm like, shit, I called it, right? Like we called it like from the like a week or so ago. And, yeah. And look, that's fine because he's a bounty hunter. Like we know he was hired from the Pike Syndicate, and and then he says like, I'll pay you, double what Boba's offering. Stay away, right? Like even tries to throw him under the bus. Like he worked for the Empire for years, and kills the deputy, who I guess the internet has been saying he's like a Walmart version of James Marsden.
Okay.
Or Marsden, sorry. And which I could see it. But then, Cobb Vanth gets like shot with the
in the
top shoulder, right? Yeah, he's still alive. But that was enough to get the town. The bartender had this like look on his face, like, "Oh man, we really need to bond together now and like fight this battle."
That is interesting, and like I'd be willing to kind of like, had they done more of that in this show, where it's like showing Tatooine is just kind of in shambles, and they all need to band together to be this like greater whole. That would be kind of interesting, and he's got to go recruit and stuff like that, right? And he wants to create a better Tatooine and rule over it with, I want to rule with respect.
I don't deal in fear anymore. I deal with respect. Okay.
But But that type of stuff would have been interesting and kind of like tell all these little stories and expand Tatooine a little bit. And instead we've kind of got that, but like very, very in passing. Like he
Yeah.
recruits the speeder gang in like 15 seconds, and
Yeah.
that's the extent of the characterization we got with them. Has he ever had a one-on-one conversation with any of them? Do we know any of their names or backstories?
Nope.
No. We don't care about anyone in this show. We have not had any characterization whatsoever for anyone. So why are we supposed to care? Oh, no, because Luke Skywalker's here. Now we care. Oh, look,
Yep.
Mando. Oh, look, Baby Yoda. Oh, Ahsoka. Oh, Cad Bane. Oh, we know these characters already, so we love them. It's a great show now. No, it's not.
Yeah.
It's not. You are assigning your emotions to a show that does not give you any characterization.
Yeah, and that's a prime question to ask. Why do you like this show? Or why do you think the show is good? Why do you think the show is great? And if any of those things that as you just mentioned, come as your answer, I'm sorry, but you're wrong. Like, I'm not trying to impose anything.
To be fair, it's fine to like that.
Absolutely, 100%. 100%.
Like, I don't want to insult people by saying, like,
Yeah.
if you enjoyed this, you're a terrible person,
No,
terrible movie
yeah.
watching. Because, like, I enjoyed watching it.
Oh, yeah.
But
Me too.
as a show and a structure, it's totally failing.
As a story, it is not cohesive at all.
Nope.
It's all over the place. Which is very surprising coming from
Is it
Dave
surprising
Filoni
after the sequels? Is it?
Well,
I know that it's from Filoni.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think because even for, I mean, honestly, I'll say it's surprising from Favreau and Filoni, because I think even with Mando season 1 and 2, at least those stories per season were pretty cohesive. And I get it. Like, why was Luke even brought in? Well, Favreau's a big Star Wars fan, and he, I don't know what sort of conversations take place, like, as to why they're including these things, especially at this point in time. But like, when you're looking at a story and it's like, if you're reading a book, you read 4 chapters of a book, and then these 2 other chapters back to back, you're like, look in the cover. Am I reading the same book? Like, did I just pick up another one off the shelf?
Yeah.
Because that's really how it feels as I'm watching it. And again, I love the stuff we saw today.
Had these been the first 2 episodes of Mando season 3, everyone would have lost their shit. It would have been incredible, right? Yeah. Everyone would have gone, it's so fucking crazy. But it's just so weird. Like, I've never seen a show do this, where it's just like, yeah, we're just gonna say fuck the story we're telling and tell a completely different one.
Yeah, I almost wish they would have saved these 2 episodes for the beginning of Mandalorian season 3.
Yeah, and like, you could have told it that way too, right? Like, Mando could have just shown up and fought for a little bit and then left, and then like you flesh it out later or something like that. It just doesn't make sense.
That's essentially what they did with Luke at the end of season 2.
Yeah,
they just, same thing with Ahsoka. Even Chrysanthemum, like, he's maybe one of the characters that I'm kind of interested in, just because he's this badass Wookiee gladiator who always has like this crazy eyebrow look, right?
Yeah.
But again, he just came in, gave him the stare down, tried to kill him, ran off scene, came into the bar, ripped off some dude's arm, beat up, had a bar fight, and was like, "I'll hire you." And then that was that. Like, not a lot of content for him per se, but still one of those like in and out type of feelings to him. And then who knows if we'll ever see him again. He might just sort of show up. I mean, it's kind of the same thing with Cad Bane. Will we see Cad Bane next episode? Don't know, because as it stands, Filoni didn't co-write next episode. He didn't direct.
We get such a great Robert Rodriguez directed episode next week. Everyone's so excited. Yes.
Right. And everyone that I've spoken with has said his episodes have been the weakest.
By far the worst. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I hate to say it, but I'm not really looking forward to next week's finale.
I'm not either. I'm out. This one made me totally out on this show.
Yeah. I can't, it sucks to say it. It really does. Like, I don't want to have this sort of feeling, but at the same time, this is their choice in the direction that they've gone in, and we just have to take it.
Yeah,
And all we can really do
we're
is
not writing it.
exactly. That's I don't want to say that's the problem, but that's just how it is.
I do wish though that like more there would be more of a pushback again. Like remember how after The Force Awakens, everyone like loved it at first and then ultimately decided it was the exact same movie as A New Hope and hated it
Yeah,
because it was trendy. Um, I wish more people would do that for this stuff, right? Because
yeah,
this feels like writing Star Wars by committee. It's like it's a little formula that you put in. It's like Luke plus Ahsoka plus insert other character equals fan reaction score high, like
right.
percentages, and it doesn't feel inspired by any sort of thematic elements. Or like the original Star Wars was George Lucas saying, I love fantasy and I love space. And I love all these old little like space western type of things that I grew up watching. And I like samurai. And I'm going to
Right.
put all that in this one little like story that's like a hero's journey. And it's going to be my little love letter to all of these things, right?
Hmm.
Star Wars was inspired by non Star Wars things. Now, Star Wars is inspired by itself.
Yeah.
They're writing these as fans of Star Wars, so they're just going to throw in the things they loved from the original Star Wars. And the fans are kind of the same way, where we loved Star Wars growing up.
Yep.
We see something that we loved growing up and it hits us right in the nostalgia feels and we like get all this comfort from it, but it's not giving us anything new or different. And like I always go back to this, and I said the same thing when I did my little rant on the end of Mando season 2, where like Steve Jobs, when he was still alive, would say that like customer research is almost ineffective at times because customers are going to tell you what they want, but you need to give them what they didn't know that they want.
Yeah.
So you have to give them something better than that. And like I think the quote is from Henry Ford when he was doing the car. He said, "Had I asked people what they wanted, they would have said a faster horse." And we never would have had cars, right? Same
Yeah.
kind of thing here. They know what fans want. They know they want Luke and all these characters and throw as much Star Warsy stuff in here, but it's like empty calories. Like we're not getting any new like innovative thoughts or ideas or movies or shows. We're just kind of getting rhymes of what we've already seen, and we're getting glimpses at that. And like in the moment, it feels great. It's oh my gosh, I can't believe they put this character in here. But like as a whole, what are you really getting out of it? Like what story is it trying to tell? What is it trying to say about anything? There's no real themes. What's the theme to this show?
How to
Like, I guess
be a
rule with respect, but then we
yeah.
don't really see any of that. And I guess it's the theme of the show is we like Star Wars, and
It's
that's
sort of
boring.
it almost I would say yeah, like to be respectful, but crime lords aren't respectful. Like show me any
Yeah.
gang or cartel that rules an area and demands payments and rules with respect.
Yeah, it's kind of like
Find me
the
one. Seriously, like,
yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Like in if for anyone watching, like even the mafia, like like Italian mobs, the yakuza, they didn't rule by respect.
Yeah.
You might have respected them for what they do to some degree, but it was in a fearful manner because if you didn't do what they said, you were dead. You were gonna get
Yeah.
whacked.
And
You're gonna get killed.
that's why I was like kind of expecting kind of a Game of Thrones thing. Because like Game of
Yeah.
Thrones by the end of it, you're not really rooting for any. I mean, maybe Jon Snow, right? But like everyone's kind of terrible, right? Everyone
Yes.
has their own issues that they're kind of, working through, and like they're kind of gray. Each of them have their own motivations, and like you kind of like some of them for being bad, and some of them, et cetera, right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I thought this would be. Is like you have all these bounty hunters, and you kind of root for Boba Fett, but he's kind of like a bad guy. And like any gangster movie you've ever seen, same thing. Like you're rooting for them, but they're awful, awful people, right? Like Casino or Goodfellas or any of those, right?
Yeah.
Same. It's like Scorsese type movies, but yeah, we didn't get that. We just got boring Boba, and
I
then
would have
Mando
loved
season 3.
yeah. I would have loved to have seen this become a Game of Thrones, like mobster type movie series.
Yeah,
You
it
know,
would have been great.
oh yeah, it would have had a different feel. It's like, the mobster movies meet Star Wars. Like we haven't gotten that
No, we haven't.
before.
Right.
And this was a perfect opportunity, and you
Yep.
missed the target.
Yeah.
You're like stormtroopers firing down a hallway. You're just missing targets. Like, where's that precision aim? Like, again, if they would have given us that, we could have looked at it and go, shit, we didn't know this is what we needed.
Yeah, exactly. Like Star Wars is not telling new stories. And like it doesn't even have to be a new story, right? Like the original Star Wars is the most derivative thing of ever, right? You
Yeah.
took like every fantasy story. Like if you line up Lord of the Rings and Star Wars next to each other, they track very closely. Like Gandalf is Obi-Wan and all this
Oh
stuff,
yeah.
right?
Oh
Right.
yeah.
Same kind of thing. Hero's journey type of stuff. So it's not
Yep.
very it wasn't very innovative from like a storytelling perspective, but what it did is it pulled all these things together and gave us likable characters and developed those characters and relationships, and in that and then it added this technology that had never before been seen, right?
Right.
So that was kind of what Star Wars is. And like this new stuff, and that's why I would love like, hey, take Star Wars and make it like a mob thing, or like that's what Nolan did with Batman. He made The
Yeah.
Dark Knight is like Heat or like some crime thriller, right?
Mhm.
And he made Batman into this like really thematic, cool crime thriller.
Right.
And that's what made it so cool is because it told it if you took Batman out of the movie, it's still a good movie. But this is just all just it's junk. It's throwing characters at you and hoping that your nostalgia will make you see past the storytelling.
I quote Luke Skywalker, "What a piece of junk."
Yeah.
You know?
It is. It is.
Except this doesn't fly as well as the Millennium Falcon does. Um,
And I fully
so
expect to get like a bunch of hate on this. And to be fair, it is totally okay if you felt, happy or elated seeing
oh
these
yeah.
characters because that's what it's designed to do. That is 100% the intent of what they are doing. I'm just saying I would prefer it to be a little bit more mature of a story.
Yeah, I think last episode and this episode should have been separate, included in season 3 of Mando. And God, you take these 2 episodes and you add it to like say the other 8 they plan to give us like a 10 episode season, and then whatever they've got cooking for that show or that season. Man, you could have had a great season with a lot of pinpoints that have other connections, of course. But it's like every season of the show is kind of attached to some other thing, right? Like when an Ahsoka show comes out, that show is going to be about her. But because a lot of people love Ahsoka, they're going to
We
get their
think it's going to be about her.
well, yeah,
Until
I say
episode
that
5.
now. Yeah, I say that now, and then something else happens, right? Like, I mean, it's sort of like saying, well, who knows? Maybe we'd see Snoke at some point, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, there's a lot they could do, and there's a lot that they could essentially, again, I'm not going to say retcon or change, but they could improve upon it. And
Yeah.
again, when they're like, weaving in and out and maneuvering within the certain
It's not unlike
characters.
Clone Wars, right? Because Clone Wars takes a story we already know and fills in the blanks and kind of makes it a little bit more like so that when you watch episode 3 again, you're like, okay, this kind of makes more sense. Like
Right.
fleshing out the turn a bit more and all of
Right.
that stuff. It works better. So it's not necessarily retconning as much as it is just like, building a better foundation below it.
Yeah.
So that when you watch it through a different lens, and I could totally see that happening because like people were pissed that Luke was, went off on this like bitter old, Jedi way, but they kind of set it up a little bit in this, right? Where they're like showing he's kind of frustrated in the whole like attachments thing, and she's telling him like you can't let him get attached, and it seems like Luke is a little bit upset and maybe frustrated a little bit.
Which should be, again, I say this because I want this, and I know other people would as well. But it's sort of like imagine them actually including Mara Jade in this sort of timeline. and Luke, because look, Emperor comes back. The Emperor came back in the extended universe, or Legends, right? So uh, he came back in the sequels. So having Mara Jade exist isn't really too far fetched. But if they did that, I would hope that they would actually sort of tamper that, again, on that border of Luke going, I can't be attached to you, but then almost feeling pulled to it, and then him sort of having this like reassessment of, you know, man, I told Grogu that he had to make a choice when he could have worn this. Here's what I actually thought they would do, because they hinted at it in the previous episode talking about the dark saber. He was a Jedi and a Mandalorian. I'm like, oh shit, that's
Yeah.
gonna be Grogu.
It could happen.
Look, yeah, it might, and
Yeah,
again,
because that would be
maybe
kind
that's
of
what we need.
interesting, right? Yeah, and I think stuff like that is interesting. Those are themes, right? We're
Y-
talking about like attachment versus is that the right way? Kind of reframing what the Jedi did in the original, like that stuff is interesting, and that like Last Jedi, for all its faults, like at least tries to do a little bit of that, right? It tries to reframe kind of what we think about the Jedi and what we've seen over the past 7 episodes.
Right.
And that stuff is interesting, and I wish we got more of that. More show me something that makes me think a little bit.
Yes. Yeah. I'm okay with things just being easy to watch, but I think with Star Wars, you could make it a little bit more thought provoking.
Yeah,
And again, something like that could be really cool to see. And I thought that's what they were going to do, especially after Ahsoka. It's funny, Ahsoka gives him a choice, Mando, right? And he decides to leave, but he gives the chain link, uh, the mithril vest, the Beskar vest to
scary Bilbo.
yeah, to yeah, to Ahsoka, and then she's like, "Should I give it to Frodo? Yes or no?" And so she then also decides to do it, and I'm like, I didn't think she was going to, and then she gives it to Luke, and then I didn't think Luke was going to, but then Luke decides to do it. I'm like, you see how many choices that were left here? Mando had a choice, then Ahsoka had a choice,
Yeah,
and Luke had a choice, and now Grogu has a choice to make. So there's a lot of
yeah,
choices and this sort of established, like, it's funny. It's almost like anti-destiny in
yeah,
Star Wars, which
which is
Luke.
good.
Yeah, no, it is, especially after we hear Vader going, "It is your destiny,"
Yeah,
right? Like, um, and it's kind of ironic for Luke to hear that at a younger age, only to sort of offer the options for choice to Grogu. And look, maybe it happens, maybe it doesn't. Um, I'm kind of wondering where it will go, and if it. I don't want to say if it's the right decision, because I guess with this there is no right and wrong. It's just more so, will they receive more praise than critique in their storytelling, because
yeah,
they're the one that has the pen in the hand, not us.
right. And yeah, I don't want to get too like on my soapbox or anything, but it's I don't know. I expect I keep a very high bar for Star Wars because I love it so much, and
Yeah, yeah, me
it
too.
it pains me to kind of see it just kind of treading water. It feels like.
Yeah, and I know people, even when the whole sequel debacle had said, "Oh, enough of the Skywalkers," and then I didn't think we'd see Luke
JK.
and Mando. Yeah, I didn't. Luke appearing in Mando season 2 was it was like of the utmost surprises, um, and I loved it. I really did. However, um, the idea of telling new stories and going beyond, it's like, look, there's a whole galaxy out there,
Yep.
and people have been saying this for a long time. Like, you have the old republic at
Yep.
your fingertips,
Yep.
which takes place thousands and
Yep.
thousands and thousands of years in the past, that you could literally
You could tell
explore.
any story you want in this
Exactly.
universe. The only
Yeah.
thing that this universe kind of has to have is like the Force, and maybe that's it. Like maybe the Jedi, but you could tell a pre-Jedi story. Maybe some kind of empire or whatever. But really, it's
Yeah.
it's space with the Force, space with magic, space fantasy. Tell
Yep.
whatever story you want,
Yep.
and you're telling the Luke story again, and the
Yeah.
Han story again, and again, and again until we die.
Yeah, and I think that also begs the question too, because I think it would almost be foolish to say that we're not going to get a Luke Skywalker centered show. Um,
Feels like it's coming.
yeah, and at that point, are we going to see a young CGI'd version of Han Solo and General Leia Organa?
They could probably just. Oh, they're doing the Lando show, right? And isn't
Are they all?
yeah? So they could bring in what's his name from Solo. They'd probably just go with him instead. Harrison Ford doesn't want any
No,
of this
yeah,
shit
he
anymore.
would not do it. Yeah,
He got out before it really hit the fan, huh?
but I wonder if because this was something that Luke or not Luke that Mark Hamill was really salty about, and he made it known on social media
Oh, the
that
little
he
reunion.
he never got to have the reunion screen,
Yeah,
and he never will with Carrie Fisher
right.
because R.I.P. But in the event that he could potentially see it,
Just
and
CGI her in too. Fuck it.
that's what I'm saying. Like it could happen still, and I
In
think
like 50 years, they're gonna make some CGI remake of A New Hope and just be like, "Here you go." It's like The
yeah,
Lion King, but it's Star Wars: A New Hope.
yeah. I mean, I hope not, but man, I wouldn't be surprised.
It's
Um,
Disney at this point. That's what they do.
that is true. But again, I wouldn't be surprised if that happened. And I mean, shit, we might have the same sort of conversation about it. Like, but look, but if it makes sense of the story, then it would make sense. And I think that only sort of point would be what really drove Han and Leia apart. With a
Yeah.
young, Ben Solo sort of thing. If again, if that's the route they go, they might not ever do that. And this is all we're just supposedly going to get. Um, but I think going into next week, the finale, um, I think Bo was going to die. And if that's the case, then I'll feel even worse about his show because he didn't
You
even get
brought him back to do nothing and then
exactly.
die.
I was like, what was
Yeah.
reiterating the question we asked before? What was the point of the show
No,
when he could have just been a cameo?
there's not a point.
Yeah, like
There's no point.
Mando should have just been the focal point of Star Wars live action, and it's sort of like the same thing with Cassian with Andor. Like he dies, he blew up,
Yeah.
he blew
It's
up.
like the prequels, right? You know what's gonna happen. So
Yeah, and again, like, we got to see a lot more of Palps, young Anakin to see his fall to the dark side, and look, there's a lot of great stuff that the prequels did offer us.
it's
But we
prequels just in general as a thing are
as a
hard
thing,
because
sure.
you already know what's gonna happen. So it's like you can build all the tension in the world, but you're not gonna really surprise anyone because they already know what's happening.
Right, like the prequel show that's about to come up from Game of Thrones, the Lord of the Rings show that's coming. Like
Right.
we kind of already know what's going to happen. We've never visualized it and seen it
Right.
come to life.
Yeah.
And I get it. That is the exciting part. And I think that's what makes stuff like we saw in this episode exciting to see. But then when we take a step back and go, as a story, it kind of it's all over the place.
Yeah.
Like
It is.
I, so
This isn't, as I said, it's storytelling by committee. It's not, this isn't some like upstart writer director in his 20s coming up with some like really cool new idea that he's passionate about and is gonna, basically drop his entire life to go make, which is what George Lucas did. And he
yeah,
nearly killed himself. Yeah, he was having heart palpitations and all this stuff trying to make this movie that was his life's dream. And
hmm
now it's just like a bunch of people in a room trying to be like, what will the fans like the most?
yeah,
It's just we've taken the passion out of movie making, and it's very apparent.
yeah, yeah. It's I mean, George. literally almost gave up his life for this shit, and people bashed him for the prequels.
Which
And
is
just
why
like,
he said, "Fuck it, I'm
and
selling it.
I was like,
Get me
fuck
the
this
hell out
shit.
of here."
But then he's like, what the fuck did you do to my material?
I think he's like the end of Office Space, where the guy's just chilling on the beach with the margaritas and take the money and run.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, I kind of wonder in the parts that he gets included into, like with Filoni and Favreau, because he's obviously been on set, right?
Yeah.
I wonder what his thoughts are. I mean, I think again, this or these shows, I'll say, going to Mando season 1 and 2, but especially this episode has included some innovative technology with
Yes.
the CGI work.
And
So
that's a kind of pillar of Star Wars too. So I don't
yes,
want to like detract from that point where
oh yeah,
Mando with the what do you call it? The screen thing.
hmm,
And then all the CGI. Like it is definitely pushing technology, which I do
100%.
appreciate. And even the prequels did that too. So Star
Yeah,
Wars has always been good about that. Uh I just want like a story with it that I care about.
yeah. Um, it's also like Kenobi, right? I think that is going to be fan service on crack.
Yeah.
On
It
crystal meth,
is. Yeah.
honestly. Look, we'll probably be talking about it, nerding the fuck out. At the same time, questioning, is this a good story that's being delivered to us? You
Yeah,
know,
it needs a reason to exist.
yep.
This show doesn't have one,
No,
and I
nope.
unfortunately, like, that's just the way of Star Wars right now. It's just kind of aimlessly wandering, and, like, they had their hit with Mando, and applaud them for that. They did something new and different and
Yeah,
told a story that we hadn't seen before, and then they just, reverted right back to nostalgia. So,
yeah.
I don't
Uh,
know. In
my
summary, this is just empty calories. That's all it is.
yeah.
The dream is dead.
Yeah, we need some actual like macronutrients here. Um, and uh, I will say this though too, just as a final thoughts on um, what are we like? What are good stories that are original within the Star Wars universe? Jedi Fallen Order is a good
That's
example, I
pretty good.
think.
Yeah.
We got the BD droid from the previous episode was like an Easter egg to that. I think this new game that was announced, Star Wars Eclipse. Did you?
Yeah, we'll see what happens with that. I'm not a huge was it David Cage is the guy who does those games. Not a huge fan of him, but
Yeah,
we'll see.
I am curious. Like, I think that trailer looked great as a trailer, um, but at the same time, my biggest thing is, cool. What's the story about? Because we don't know anyone in that. We've seen two Jedi's, and but there's all this other mystery to it, and I think that's cool and all. Um, uh, but I think for the sake of, again, kind of maybe it proves like that as a game in the Star Wars universe exists for a reason, much like the Old Republic did. So I don't know. We'll see. But I think if anyone's watched up to this point, and maybe they stopped watching because they wanted to just or pause it because they wanted to type up their thoughts, which I do appreciate.
I hope there's going to be a lot of them.
Yeah, and I think for the sake of, uh, you know, I I respect everyone's thoughts and opinions on this, and look, sort of like the same thing where if you like the sequel trilogy, I didn't per se, but I still respect that's what you like.
Yep.
And same thing, like we both really enjoyed this episode of Star Wars. We just don't like the story that's being told because it doesn't make any sense and it doesn't belong here.
Right. It's
Um,
we're never going to shit on anyone for their opinion.
exactly. Yeah.
You're free to like what you are your own best critic, right?
Yeah.
And there's going to be
100%.
people that watch this and are like, that is everything I wanted from Star Wars. And that's fine. For
Yeah.
me, I demand a little bit more from Star Wars. And maybe
Me
it's
too.
being unfair to it. But I kind of, if you look at that original trilogy and what it did, I hold it to a higher bar than popcorn movies.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I will be very picky about it.
Yeah, we hold that on such high regard, and you have put it on this pedestal, which I think it belongs there.
Yeah, it does.
But I think also at the same time, like, because it has this bar that's been set, if you fall short to it, you're going to catch some heat, and it just kind of comes with the territory. Like, I know a lot of people say, oh, Star Wars fans are toxic. It's like, no, we're just
I
insanely
really love Star Wars.
passionate
That's really
and
it.
love this shit to, like,
Yeah.
To our bones.
Yeah.
We've got hella merchandise. Like,
there's a baby Grogu, like right there.
Yeah, I've got one here. I've got one on top of my desktop. I've got this that I haven't even hung up yet. Like, that was a recent gift. I mean, like, I've got other posters and shit I haven't hung up yet. Like, I'm just kind of lazy about it, but it's I even had my tattoo artist like come up with like a whole sleeve to do that would essentially cost me like $1,500, and which I just haven't pulled the trigger on that because I'm like, it's a lot of money though.
That is a lot.
And certain parts would be hella painful. Exactly. Yeah. But that was the other thing that's taken a lot of time. I was like, what the hell do I want to have tattooed?
Luke Skywalker. Dave Filoni. Do it.
It was funny because, like, I remember when the sequels came out and a lot of people started seeing like Kylo Ren and all that stuff. I was like, maybe we'll get Kylo Ren. Nope.
Whoops.
God, I didn't do that. But honestly though, like, I mean, Vader is essentially on there because Vader is just Vader.
He's legendary. Yeah,
exactly.
That's a safe bet.
Exactly. And I mean, I think at the same time, like, there's like some. I think it's like the safest characters, right? Like, I think Yoda's a safe character, Maul is a safe character, the Millennium Falcon's a safe character. Maybe
will
even
always be there. Yeah.
Right. You know what I'm saying? Like, even R2 at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, or a 3PPO. I can't even talk.
Nice. I think we've gone too long.
Yeah, I know.
So it's an hour and we're on Star Wars Tattoo Talk. So thank you.
Yeah, I know. If you've made it this far and you have any Star Wars tattoos, leave your tattoo depictions in the comments below and we'll talk. But yeah, I think we'll call it here. We appreciate everyone that's watched this video, has commented on it. Yeah, we'll see everyone here next week for the finale. I hope it is not bad. Maybe
it's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, like, it might be the best of the 3 episodes that he's directed, but at the same time, what's that really saying?
Yeah.
So, but yeah,
we're thrilled right here. This is my thrilled face.
So filled with joy.
See you next week.
After episodes 5 and 6. They were, yay. Great. Enjoy the memes as well that I'm going to throw in here. So, but yeah, this is Nick and Shane signing off, and we'll see you guys next week.